Hello, everybody. Welcome to the show. Today we are talking to Jacob about his final. Jacob, welcome to the show.
So I want to go ahead and talk a little bit about what is progressives. Now, today we have that word that's being used. Usually it's kind of geared towards liberals, Democrats. However, back in the early 1900s, you could be a Democrat, Republican, but it's a progressive was somebody who wanted to seek change. And in the late 1800s, late 19th century, what we had in our country was a push for industrialization. We had the second industrial revolution that was really pushed by electricity. And so with that, we had a lot of issues going on with uh, corporations getting big, warehouse work where employees were working 12-hour jobs, sometimes longer than 12 hours, child labor, women not getting paid the way they should have been, government issues regarding the way elections were being held. So there were a lot of problems, and not only in government, but in the workplace, in society as a whole. We had the temperance society where men were drinking so much that women were talking about, hey, we need to stop this. And there was talk about an amendment to stop alcohol drinking. And that did happen with Amendment number 18. And so what came about was these group of people, a lot of them were writers. Teddy Roosevelt was considered a progressive because he wanted to see changes in the meatpacking industry with a book that was written by Upton Sinclair called The Jungle. And then he was also conservator. I mean, he was a big conservationist. I'm sorry. He put aside lands like Yosemite and Yellowstone. And so there was a book that I read recently, not recently, a while back, about a year. And let me share that with you real
By the
quick.
way, just so we give the audience some context of what you're talking about, you're giving a final
Yes.
about the progressive movement or
Yes.
progressives. And so you're giving a little context to that. And one of the books you would recommend in terms of sort of pushing forth this idea of a leading progressive, at
Right.
least in the uh, you know early 20th century,
Right.
late 19th century, is Teddy Roosevelt's The Bully Pulpit, right, by
Yeah.
Doris Kearns Goodwin.
That's it. So this writer has written many books. A Team of Rivals, the Lincoln book that was a bestseller. I think she got the Pulitzer Prize for it actually a few years ago. And so this book takes you into the world of not only progressivism, but these two presidents who were um, Roosevelt and not his vice president, but the president that came after him, William Howard Taft, and how they were dealing with the issues of progressive. I mean, Taft was not a progressive, so Roosevelt often was one of his biggest. At first, a supporter, but later on, he was just really disenchanted with his work regarding progress in this country. And so, in this book, though, there's a number of writers, a number of progressives that are talked about. So it's a book to definitely dive into if you don't know too much about progressivism in the early part of the 1900s. And then Teddy Roosevelt, like I said, is a big piece of this book. And so it's if you like Teddy Roosevelt, you definitely want to read this book. And
So
before I forget, Teddy Roosevelt, he looked at writers and the ones who were looking at and seeing problems in society. He called them muckrakers. Do you know what a muckraker is, Ruben?
tell us.
A muckraker is somebody who goes into a horse stable and takes all the waste, right, and throws it out. And so he compares some of these writers who are looking into business, government, and finding dirt and garbage and letting the public see it. And so he called them muckrakers. And so that's where the term comes from regarding these writers, like Ida Turnbull and Stevens. And so anyway, like I said, this book brings out these writers and these progressive like Teddy Roosevelt to the
And again, this
forefront.
this informs the broader ideas around the project
Yeah, so
that you're about to explain right now.
I'm
So
going to go ahead.
we're
Go
just
ahead.
laying out some groundwork, right, to get some kind of idea of who these people are and why
Yeah,
they're important.
thank you, Ruben. So that's what I think I'm going to go ahead and do now. I'm going to go ahead and explain the project to you.
Okay, great. So We recently discussed a final project that I assigned to my class. What about you? Do you have a final project that that you've assigned to your students?
Yeah, thanks. I have three classes I teach: ethnic studies, U.S. history, and psychology. But I'm going to share my U.S. history final today, and I do a project with them. It's a poster project, and so this is a. I usually don't have a lot of points for every assignment. It's like 10 points, and exams are usually 20, 25 points. But for the final, 40 points. That's not crazy a lot, but it's a little bit more than normal. And so I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of things with you. Now, this unit is on progressivism, and it's one of my favorite units. And it comes out actually after we have Industrial Revolution. And so this last couple of weeks, I've been talking to the students about these progressives and in government, in journalism, uh, also in the world itself, or at least in our country. And so we look at these different people who had, even the women like Alice Paul and Lucy Burns, who got the 20th Amendment passed for women having the right to vote. We deal with all these personalities. So by the time we get to this project, we've talked about several people from W.E.B. Du Bois, also and Booker T. Washington, and individuals like that, Teddy Roosevelt, who are all progressives.
So
And
what's
so,
the actual assignment?
so here we go. I'm going to go ahead and share that with you. So I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'll just give you the idea. The assignment is where the students, and I have the actual standard here, the Common Core standard, and the objective. But basically, the students are going to create a poster, and on the left side of the poster, they will either draw or cut it out from the internet, or cut and paste it from the internet. The person, let's say it's Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, they'll print that out, and on the bottom, I don't want to know about Teddy Roosevelt's family or his college. I want to know, what did he do that was progressive, right? What kind of reforms did he pass if he's a president, right? And so they'll share 5 to 6 items there, okay? And on the right side of the poster, they are going to connect it to today. For example, if Teddy Roosevelt was a progressive in the areas of conservation, right? He set aside Yosemite, and he set aside Yellowstone and other lands besides that for people to enjoy, also for logging rights, and also, for logging. And so that's one way. That's one way he was a progressive. But also he did things like he was a trust buster, right? He looked at different corporations, companies, and he busted them, and they became smaller because they were not allowing competition. So that's another way he was progressive. And so if they did choose someone like Roosevelt, they would be sharing that on the left side, the things that he or she were part of, and seeing change. Go ahead.
So it's a poster of a picture of the
So I'm not done.
person.
So on the left side of the person, a picture of the person, and below are the things that person did during his or her time that either pointed to problems and wanted change, or actually were part of the change, right? So we could get out of a situation where, like, for example, if it was women's rights, women got the right to vote, right? So on the right side, though, we're speeding forward to 2021, okay? And I have them make a little collage on the second half of the poster. They're throwing up words and pictures of today's times. For example, if I had picked Teddy Roosevelt, they would look at a corporation that was getting, like Microsoft, that was a trust as well. The courts found that, and they had to sell part of the company off. And so they would have images there and words that describe that. And because we could tie it back to Teddy Roosevelt, who was doing that in the beginning of the 1900s.
So they would analyze today's, like,
Yes.
a current event or issue,
Right,
through the lens of Teddy. Kind of like if
right,
Teddy Roosevelt was around,
exactly.
he might address this issue
And he
because
would be, yes, and he would be happy with it. He would be saying, "Hey, this is what we need to be doing." And so we'll look at those issues that are happening today that he would definitely be interested in, and he was actually doing back then. He was promoting, hey, no more trust. He was promoting conservation. He was promoting. He's the one who started the FDA, Food and Drug Administration. I told the kids, if you had like information on the right side dealing with these different vaccinations that are being passed through the FDA, that would be great, because Teddy Roosevelt would say, without Teddy Roosevelt, we wouldn't have the FDA. Does that make sense? So things that today that we could say, wow, that we could have that connection towards with Teddy Roosevelt. So this, again, I give, and let me show you real quick, group. Down here, I have a list of, so at the bottom here are a number of different reformers, progressive. Muckrakers are journalists, right, who were looking at wanting change. And so these are the people they could choose from. And so there's a whole list of them. I have, like I said, I have 42 kids in a class, 43 kids in another. So I have plenty of names they could choose from Ida Wells to Lincoln Stevens, all these wonderful progressives. And let me just share one more thing with you in the audience.
So it sounds like they're doing a couple of things. They're doing a poster, showing the poster, the analysis on it, and
I
they're
forgot
speaking.
the second. Yeah, so that's the second part, because the standard talks about them to, because we're fulfilling that part of the Common Core standard, them speaking. So part of what they're being graded on is sharing with the class. So I give them a 2-minute limit because I have so many students, and they're going to share they're going to talk about the left side regarding the progressive and why they were progressive, and then of course the connection from the right side. And so that's pretty much it. Of course, the rubric's there so they can see what will give them the 20 points they want for the speaking part. And of course, on the top, I have how they would get the 20 points for that. And then of course, 20 plus 20 is 40. Go ahead.
I guess I have a question.
Sure.
Why would this be a final? Why would you put this under a
Thank
final?
You. So all these personalities that I had on the list, many of them we have already talked about and we've gone into it. And so this is their way of connecting what we've shared and bringing it into the class and sharing it with the class of what they hopefully they've learned in class and what they've read about. And then they have to do a little bit more research, right? And so this, I didn't share this before, Ruben, but U.S. history does not have, they don't get tested in the spring like math, science, and English. So what I've been doing in the last few years is creating assessments that are not just exams. I'll do a debate, we'll do a paper, right? We'll do a magazine. This time we're doing a poster. But I always try to bring on all the information that we learned during that unit. And so they could basically let us regurgitate what they learned. And that's how I'll grade them right there. It'll be easy grade. So I'm just like, okay, they're catching it, they're getting it. There's the 20 points. Boom. They'll have the grade right there.
What if 10 people pick, for example,
good question.
Upton Sinclair? What then?
So what I do is, this is how I do it, and maybe this might be debatable, but I have students whoever has the highest grade, I give them first choice of whatever person they want. And they come in and they. Oh,
so you knock out that name once they pick.
And then knock out the name. And every so often, this is the fun part. Once in a while, they'll say, "Mister, there's just one progressive you don't have on the list," and I'll go, "Wow, that's cool." And they'll give me the name. I go, "Great, go for it." So I'll let them do that, and that's always fun. That happened this year a couple of times. I go, "Yeah, let's put that person on there." So it's, it's fun because they get to do it. It's fun, Ruben. I'm not sure if you have this issue, but I did propose to kids to do it on video, but they didn't want to do that. They'd rather do it in person. They said they feel more comfortable doing it in person. So I said, okay, we'll do it in person.
My only note, mm-hmm. I have a video that we did where I have a presentation, and I usually do presentations for the final, but I'm personally not doing it. It's a choice because of the fact that they're wearing masks, and therefore I know how it is as a teacher. It takes away so much of my presentation because I'm covering my face. So, but if you get a chance, look at the humans project I gave out. They're speaking in this project I'm giving them. So I'm not completely taking out the idea of speaking, because it's an important tool. It's an important skill.
But you make a good point, though. I mean, the mask thing is the only hindrance. That's why I did mention let's do it on video, but they were so adamant of letting it do it in person. They like being in person. I said, oh, you know what? I'll do it. I'm going to listen to them. So, but yeah, I hear you.
Any last thing on your project?
No, it's just, it's always fun. I wish I could show you an example, and I did a dumb thing, Ruben, and I learned from it. I'll tell you what I did. I threw out a lot of my examples for other things, not just this project, but other, activities. And I did it because I had so much stuff. When we went through COVID and this whole, distant learning, I just cleaned out my room and I threw out all this stuff, and I should have taken pictures. I was sharing this with my kids, and my kids go, why don't you just take a picture of it, mister? And I go, oh,
right.
So now I'm gonna do that and take pictures. So
Got it.
there you go.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Thank you for joining us, everybody, for Pod and Deliver, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.